The Hammer and the Axe is about a blacksmith named Doug Swenson who lives in Hawley, Minnesota, and his apprentice, Tim Jorgensen, who lives in Fargo, North Dakota. I have known Tim for a number of years, and he is recently a new father. And so he left his position in Moorhead at the Yumkamp Center as the special events coordinator. And he's been heavily involved with Viking Age history and the Midwest Viking Festival and Viking culture and Viking reenactment. And so he's wanted to kind of learn everything there is to learn about how the Vikings lived, how they made their clothes, how they made their houses, how they survived. And he spent a lot of time in Norway. And so I visited him when he lived in Norway. So I knew that he had a lot of knowledge about this stuff. And when he told me that he was apprenticing with a master blacksmith to learn how to do Viking Age blacksmithing, I thought, I'd like to see that. That's something I'm interested in. As far as I know, none of the members of our documentary team had ever been to a working forge before. And so we walked in that night to Doug's forge, which is on his farm, and we were all kind of there to learn and be amazed. And I think he didn't disappoint us. It was so cold when we shot the movie. It was well below zero, but you step into that forge and it's warm and it's kind of inviting in there once they get the fire stoked. Well, I'd never met Doug before the day we arrived to shoot at his forge. Obviously, I'd known Tim for many years and have worked with him on a variety of different kinds of projects. And he has such a huge interest in culture and history, and that was my connection to the story. And so Doug was every bit as pleasant and gentle and kind as we expected him to be based on Tim's recommendation. And so I think everybody was there. We didn't expect to be fed, but Doug's wife and daughter made lunch for us one afternoon, and that was just really generous of them to do that. Tim's been working with Doug for a couple years, and their relationship, the apprenticeship, is grant funded, and so it's something that he wants to continue doing so that he can learn more and then carry those skills to show other people at the various public displays like the Midwest Viking Festival and other kinds of opportunities for people to show up and sort of see all kinds of different arts and crafts related to the Viking Age. The forge itself just has a really terrific look. It has a lot of grays and browns and blacks in that space. And so our photographers, the 3 photographers who worked on the project, who are all just really tremendous at their craft, kind of got together to figure out how to make this look its best. And stepping outside the door into that really cold, uninviting environment, we knew we had to have at least a couple shots to juxtapose the ice cold prairie and the red hot forge, as we put it on our description of the movie. I can't remember whose idea it was to do the photographs in the environment, because we had asked Tim and Doug if they had any photographs that we might be able to use, and so they both located some albums with prints in them, and we looked through that on the morning, one of the mornings of the shoots at the forge. And well, when we were there, I wasn't sure. I don't think it was my idea. It was someone else. Do you remember whose idea it was?
I could have sworn it was Tucker's.
It was okay. So
yeah.
let's give credit to the co-producer and editor of the film, Tucker Lucas, who I think said, "Hey, what if we took these photographs and put them in the environment?" And so we had all these great tabletops and spaces to shoot where the photographs could sit. And I think it was just sort of part of it was by design, by Tucker's design, and then the other part was sort of the happy accident of even being able to see the reflection of the flames from the forge off of the the gloss of the prints. So it was just a lovely. I'm always interested in finding other ways you could shoot something that is commonly seen in a documentary. You may have noticed that we didn't have any talking heads interviews. We just recorded the audio rather than having them sit down to when they did their testimonial kind of descriptions of their relationship. We didn't get any video with that. We obviously have video of them sitting down and chatting with one another in the space, but that was all, that wasn't any of the content that we used for the discussion of their relationship to one another. Everybody on the team learned something about blacksmithing for sure, because none of us had ever done it. And I think one of the things I learned about blacksmithing was the idea of Tim and Doug's approach to utility, to the idea that in our imaginations, everyone kind of, like Doug thinks about things like swords, but in fact, things with high utility, hooks and hammers and axes, end up being, more, in some ways, more elegant, because there's kind of form and function to them, and I think that was nicely expressed by Doug and Tim in the course of the very short movie that we made.